Welcome to the Unpackers, the podcast of two boomers exploring the world of trading and investing, aiming for financial freedom and to make their kids proud. Join them on their mission.
People conflate the result of an action with whether or not it was a good decision or not. But that's not always the correct thing to do. The last kind of 10 years, everything is available for free within reason.
Can you even master the game after a certain age?
They're like above 50.
Welcome to the Unpackers podcast. My name is Bart. I'm a trader on my way to profitability. And my goal is to buy my son a ticket to an FC Barcelona game, all paid for by my trading profits.
My name is Ilko, and I'm a data-driven trader. I'm always looking for the perfect setup. And some days I feel like I've cracked the code. Other days, my kids randomly putting in some numbers would be also a great game.
My name is Jip Molenaar. Bart and Ilko call me the Gen Z Moonboy, and I'm here to help them to make their families proud.
And today we have with us a guest who has been in our show before. And we had the opportunity to speak to him again. We flew all the way over to Dubai to meet him. He's a professional Bitcoin trader, but I also think he trades some other shitcoins. He is the founder of Chroma Trading. He's a very smooth streamer. And of course, I'm talking about the one and only Follis. Follis, welcome. Very happy to have you here in Dubai.
Hey guys, really nice to be here. How you doing?
Yeah, good stuff, man. We are coping with all the weather.
The heat.
Actually, I was, when we were preparing, and I saw this on your profile, all these titles, all these caps that you're wearing. Yeah, what represents the most to you right now? How do you, more a trader or meanwhile CEO of a growing company?
Yeah, so I guess it changes. It changes week to week and has changed extensively over the last few years. I mean, when I started out, I was obviously much more of a trader and spent more time trading. I guess now it's a little bit different because I'm growing my own business, I'm growing my own brand. So there's maybe less of a focus on purely trading stuff and more of a focus on the business growth, the auxiliary activities around trading, streaming, content creation. There's a lot of things going on. But that said, I still maintain that, my main role is that of a trader. Although, yeah, as I said, lots of other things going on in my life at the moment as well.
How does your typical day look like, or do you even have a typical day in the life of Follis?
I definitely don't have a typical day. I would say that my average day varies quite a lot, between weeks, between months. As I said, my average day maybe a year or two ago would look very different to what my average day looks like now. I think now there's much more of a focus on, administration, managerial kind of stuff, business growth kind of stuff, fostering relationships, fostering partnerships, that kind of thing. So yeah, things have changed a little bit for me now, but it's a good problem to have. I'll put it that way, because it's a sign that things are growing and moving in the right direction.
Definitely. And last time you described the journey from lawyer to trader. At what time did you think, okay, now it's time to really put some more meat on the bone in terms of a community? Let's not do this anymore alone. Can you take us a little bit back to that moment in time, or how that gradually went?
So I think pretty early on, I made or at least I had the impetus that I wanted to create a community. That was one of the first things I remember thinking when I got into trading is, there's this perception in trading that it's a game for lone wolves and, everyone trades their own books. And I get that. That's completely valid. But my first year or let's say 9-10 months trading, I was doing it completely solo. And I'm kind of I would say I'm a relatively introverted guy insofar as I like my own company. So that kind of suited me.
You're an introverted guy? That's not how you come across.
I genuinely am. I enjoy my own company. I'll sit happily on my own in my room for a whole day, and that satisfies me. I'm very happy to spend time on my own. But actually, the big progress, the big game changer for me, insofar as kind of getting better as a trader, was when I joined a small community. There was a friend of mine had set up a group of maybe 20 to 30 traders. There were guys actually that I followed on Twitter at the time, pretty small to medium sized accounts. Let's say these guys had a few thousand followers, but to me at the time, because I had no following, these guys were giants.
Which year are we talking now?
This is like 2022. So I started trading
long ago.
No, it sounds like you're talking about ancient times.
Yeah.
But
well, I only started trading in 2021.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and that whole first year, I just spent losing money. I just hemorrhaged money. I didn't make a single cent.
There go the savings.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and really like, because as you guys mentioned, I was a lawyer before, so I
Yeah.
had a little bit saved up, and that all went, it just vanished.
Right.
And at the end of the first year, I was kind of like, I remember I had a discussion with my girlfriend who's sitting over there, and I just said like, well, this is it. I either like I've lost so much money now, I either quit and focus on law and really double down on that, or I'm just going to be stubborn and I try and make it work. And of course, I'm a stubborn bastard, so I really, really tried to make it work after that. And that was kind of the moment. But there was also, as I just alluded to, around that time, a buddy of mine invited me to his community. It was a small community of traders, but that was the game changer for me, because I was able to ask these guys a bunch of questions.
Right.
And when I started off, I was easily the worst trader in there. But I was able to bounce all these questions off guys who were better than me, guys who knew what they were doing. And I remember, like, at the time, like I didn't know what liquidity was. I didn't know what like supply and demand was. I didn't know what support and resistance were.
Yeah.
Like all these very, very basic terms that I now know kind of like the back of my hand. I didn't really know what they were, how they were used. And I was asking these questions, and I felt stupid initially, but eventually you get a grasp on them. You figure out how they work. You start implementing them in your trading. You start making a little bit of money. It's a very satisfying feeling. But I think that process, if it would have happened at all, it would have been much slower if I had been doing it on my own. So I remember thinking after that kind of, that group also finished in less than a year. It was a very short-lived thing. But I remember thinking towards the end of that, like, there's something really good here. There's something really positive to be done in terms of community. And just even in terms of like having a hub. Like I'm sure you guys know, we're all active on Twitter, X.
Right.
You know how crazy it is, and it can get
it's
quite
Wild West.
yeah, it can get quite toxic. It can get quite negative. So I think there's also like a very positive mindset aspect to having like, and you're the same, right? Because you have a
Pretty
tribe,
similar story,
right? Yeah, you have, but it's like a hub. Right,
Yeah.
it's like somewhere where you wake up in the morning. It's the first thing you check.
Good morning.
Good morning. It's the first
Good
thing
morning,
you check.
everyone.
Like, hey
Yeah.
guys, how's it going?
It
Like
is,
anything in the
yeah.
charts. You know what I mean? And like, thankfully, I've been able to foster like just this really wholesome community full of great guys from the top to the bottom. And we don't do negativity. We don't do toxicity. The mindset's really good, and that's good. That's not only good for the people in there, but it's good for me as well.
Yeah,
Such
sure.
a satisfying feeling.
Yeah.
We're also like talking about the process of not knowing about supply and demand, not knowing about market structure and liquidity, and the satisfaction that it gives once you were making progress. And that was also going to be my next question. Is one of the reasons that you are building Chroma and building a community and building a personal brand because you feel like now that you are a consistently profitable trader, trading on itself is actually quite boring?
Yeah, I mean there are a bunch of reasons as to why I'm still doing Chroma, why I started Chroma. I guess that's definitely one of the reasons. I mean, one of the big or most satisfying things about it for me is like seeing guys come into the server and not know anything.
Yeah.
And, and I see myself in them, and I'm not trying to be all cliche and trying to be like, oh yeah, and it fills my heart. You know what I mean? But like it genuinely, like it does. It's a very satisfying feeling. Like seeing these guys come in, they don't know, they don't know how to read price action. They don't know how to read charts, and like eventually it gets to the point where they're DMing me. They're like, hey man, like is it time for me to get onto the trading team? And I'm like, that's a good question because you've come on so much, and I can think of 3 or 4 guys off the top of my head right now who are in that position. And like that's a very satisfying feeling to think that people come into something that you created and like take so much value from that and kind of get to a position where they're now able to make money on their own power. That's a very satisfying feeling. There are a bunch of reasons why I do it, but that's definitely one of the most satisfying.
Where all these members are coming from? Literally all over the world. And how old are they? Or is it male, female? I mean, there seem very little female traders in the world.
Male, female, yeah, I don't know. we definitely have some female members, but it's like, in my Twitch chat, like, if we get like 3-4 females out of 300-400, I think that's probably in line with the normal ratio. Yeah, there are definitely some female traders in there. In terms of like age, we have a decent age profile. Like I myself am probably slightly on the older side when it comes to crypto traders. It just seems like everyone is Yip's age and younger,
Except for Bart and Ilko.
No, thanks. But it does. It does seem.
Yeah.
It almost seems, to raise another question. Can you even master the game after certain age, not because of intelligence, but more workload.
I have a bunch of members actually as well. Like also, I can imagine a guy from the States and someone from France actually also attended the event. They're like above 50 years old, like having kids, having a proper family, and still doing trading on the side, and still so eager to learn and to study the craft of trading, which is also one of the reasons why these kind of communities are so much fun, because there's so much diversity, which is, for me, also one of the reasons why it's so much fun.
Well, I started trading when I was 30.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like as you guys alluded to, I had a full career before that. Like I studied as a lawyer, like went to law school, like did my undergrad, did my master's, did my law qualification exams. And like, I got to the point where I was qualified and practicing as a lawyer, and then gave it all up after like a year and a half. That was it, and tried to make crypto work, and thankfully got to a position where I was able to make it work. But yeah, like as you say, there are guys on my server who are 40, 50, and they have kids, they have obligations, they're trying to make it work because like it's an exciting industry to be in, right? And I think there's a difference between guys who come in for 6 months and they're like, what meme coins should I buy to make $1 million tomorrow? There's a difference between those guys and guys who come in and say, well, actually, I want to learn, I want to spend time, I understand that it's not a get-rich-quick scheme. Like, how do I engage with this industry, with this profession, with this vocation in a way that I can kind of meaningfully integrate myself into it and also like learn about it and get better at it, right? Yeah. There's definitely, there are moon boys. There are always going to be moon boys. And I think that gets worse as the market goes up, Like I spoke to a few guys. I was at an event last night. I won't mention any names, but there's a few guys running private communities at that event, and I spoke to them, and they all said that their memberships were way down since the market tumbled a bit in the last few months. I was thinking that's very interesting because like we just hit membership all-time high, right? Yeah. So it's like, I don't know. There are groups that cater much more towards like the moon boys, the guys who are coming in when the market is hot. And then I guess like that's something that maybe that's not necessarily our focus. We're trying to build just as much in bearish conditions as we are in bullish conditions, and trying to teach people. There's just as much to learn when the market is down as when the market is up. You know what I mean?
That is also where you can literally outperform the market. Yeah. When everything is rising, you have your investments. Trading actually makes no sense. Yeah. Because you won't outperform the market. It is in times where market is moving sideways, is boring, or moving down. That is where we have an advantage over the regular investors that are just in it for the long term, And the people that you were mentioning, you can just recognize them in the chat, like with their first message, usually. And you just know that, okay, it's nice to have them around. You can try to change them, but the odds of them leaving within a few months or maybe within the first month is pretty high, which is also completely fine because at the end of the day, the people that are genuinely there to build a career off trading or, I don't know, earn some income with trading over a long period of time, they will stick around no matter what.
And what are the characteristics of those who make it?
It's perseverance, I think. And that sounds like a bit of a cliched answer, but like, you don't need to be some kind of 1 in a million intellect. You don't need to have some kind of special skill or special talent that no one else has, but you need to get up every day and do the thing. You know what I mean? And like, that's not easy sometimes. Sometimes it's easy because you just, you're having a great week and everything's going well for you. That's when it's easy. It's easy to get up then and to log in and to check the charts and to do the work. It's not easy to do that when things aren't going your way. But the guys who are successful are the guys who do it anyway. So I think there's definitely, I would say, like perseverance and determination and just that drive, that work ethic to get up and do it even when things aren't going your way. Like that is by far and away the trait that I see most often among successful traders is they're the guys who push through it. And you see guys now on social media, they have hundreds of thousands of followers. They're super wealthy, but they're not necessarily the best traders. They just got into crypto in like 2015 when Bitcoin was like $1,000. You know what I mean? Sure. And like they're not the guys I'm talking about here because I think there's an element of just being early rather than being better there.
Unfortunately.
But there are guys like who came around the last few years. They're absolutely killing it. And if you talk to them, like they were still showing up every day. Like in the 2022 bull or bear market when everything was down only. You know, like they were logging in every day when altcoins went minus 90% or whatever it was.
I think
right?
the time where there was no volatility
Yeah.
after the FTX crash, it was way worse.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
was
yeah.
horrible to trade. I remember, oh my days. That was way worse than when we had the crashes, because at least then you had the volatility to execute some positions and get some triggers here and there, you know. But indeed, those are the guys that survive and make it. And I also feel like consistency in that case is also maybe a bit of a cliche, beats intensity all the time.
No, but I'm going to challenge you a little bit, because it's not just perseverance or staying around. It is also trying to figure out what works. You have your famous New York Open strategy. I got hammered, by the way. I got hammered by the way for trading it.
I told you, wait for the second leg.
Yeah. I looked at the video, but I did something wrong in the end, I think. So it's not to blame on you. But you must sort of, it's like almost, plug some switches, whatever, to see what works. How did that process work with you?
The style of trading that we do, right? The style of trading that I do and that I teach, like it's definitely not for everyone. And there's a trader in my server, a guy called Benny, very smart guy. He often says, he says, I don't mean to be a downer, but like if you're feeling the pressure and you're feeling that like everything's getting to you and you feel like you can't do it, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with stepping back and maybe taking a break or even saying like, this isn't for me. When I got started, I was trying quite literally everything. I was trying GAN theory. I was trying Fibonacci retracement. I was trying...
This is the part I so recognize.
Yeah. I was literally trying. I was drawing squares. I was drawing triangles. I was drawing circles. Sure. Anything that would work, And the big change for me, actually, shout out my boy, was when I watched Trader Main. He was doing a live stream. And I remember like before this, I had never seen a trader who used price action.
Mm-hmm.
I remember seeing him and he was talking about no indicators. Just look at the charts. Just look at, here's supply, here's demand, here's an order block, here's an imbalance. This is what you trade. No indicators, just look at the candlesticks.
Liquidity.
Yeah. And I was like, wow, like it was so intuitive. It was so simple. It made a ton of sense. I was able to kind of get the grasp of the basics within a few days and then apply. And of course, then it takes years to master those basics. But that was the changing moment for me. I removed all the indicators. I really focused on price action going forward. And since then, I've added a few feathers to my cap. I've added a few different trading elements from different trading styles, let's say. But that was the big moment for me. That was the moment where I got rid of the GAN fan, got rid of the Elliott wave, got rid of the whatever. And I just focused on what seemed to me at the time to just be a really intuitive, straightforward way of engaging with the candlesticks, of engaging with the charts. And, that's another reason why I got into streaming, I got into content creation. Because, I saw Trader Main and like, I've hung out with Trader Main before IRL. He's just the nicest guy. But like, he is the closest thing to like, a good guy celebrity we have in the space. Like people come up to him every 5 minutes and they're like, yo man, like, and they have stories like me. They're like, you're the reason I got into price action trading, or you're the reason that I became profitable. Like so many like good stories like that of people coming up to him and saying those things. And like, it's very easy to look at a guy like that and be like, yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. And that's one of the reasons I got into streaming. And now he's my homie and we chat fairly regularly, which is super cool and gratifying to me, But I mean, that was the big moment for me. That was what changed. We are so fortunate to be living in an age where all this information is available online. Like can you imagine being in your situation or our situation or any situation where you're trying to get into trading back in like the 1980s or the 1990s? It was just like, it was the most gate-kept profession.
Sheer impossible.
Because, you needed to go to school and you needed to buy all these books and you needed to get like an actual education. I mean, even go back further than that. Like, think of like John Bollinger and the boys like drawing on charts that they printed off, Like, his Bollinger Bands were like with a ruler and compass initially. So, I mean, like, we're very fortunate insofar as like the last kind of 10 years, like everything is available for free within reason. And I do believe that. I think you can get a fantastic trading education for free with all the free resources online. And it's just kind of a matter now of like finding those resources and applying yourself, and you can get to a point of incredible aptitude, actually.
But isn't it that you also need some guidance through all the information that there is available?
So this is where I maybe have an unpopular opinion because I run a private trading community, right? And so does Yip.
Yeah.
I genuinely think that if you have unlimited time and unlimited resources,
Right.
that is, you can absolutely get to a point of profitability, a point of mastery on your own power, on your own. I do think that where I think private mentorship and private communities come in, we're not some kind of magic pill that you swallow and then immediately overnight you become profitable. That people have this mindset that like, oh, I need to join. This trading community has 5,000 people. Like they must all be killing it. I got to join this group. I got to pay $500 a month, whatever it is. That is so far from the truth. Private mentorship or a private trading community is like, it's like the last like 10%, right? But still the big 90%, the big chunk of it has to come from you, right?
on your own.
Has to come from your drive, your determination. Like what we can do is offer maybe a few little shortcuts, kind of hold your hand, offer you a little bit of guidance through that final part of the process. And when I say final part, I mean it touches on everything. It's throughout the whole process, but it's the top 10% rather than be that drive, that determination, that motivation has to come from you still. And it's not some kind of like magic pill or some kind of like magic drink that you just imbibe and then you're profitable overnight. That's not the way it works. Hard work is still the main driver behind becoming profitable.
But is your question also meant in such a way that there is so much information, like you rightfully put it, then you go to a certain group or a certain YouTube series or whatever, certain styles, certain strategies, there are setup movies like you have, and then you're trying everything, and then you win some, you think, hey, this is a magic pill, and then you fail, and then you go to a different group or whatever, and then you go through the same experience. At a certain point of time, you almost need to say to yourself, screw it, I'm only going to do that. Give a sort of leap of faith towards a certain style or trader, and just be okay with it. That's for me.
I think that is one of the best things to do, to pick a certain style, stick to it, and forward test it for a longer period of time, and start gathering data on that specific strategy, and see if it works. And then along the way, if you journey your trades, etc., you will find out a bunch of stuff that you can improve. But if you flip-flop systems all the time, for example, there are certain systems that maybe thrive in trending environments. There are certain systems that thrive in ranging environments. And if you pick a system or something in the direction of a system and you only test it for, let's say, a month, maybe during that month we have ranging price action, but maybe you chose to pursue a system that thrives during trending environments, then you quit on that system and you flip-flop to the next system. And then maybe the market starts trending for a month or two. And then all of a sudden that strategy isn't working as well. But maybe if you stuck to the first strategy, during the first month you may have played break even or a slight loss. During the second month, where the system was thriving, you may have gained 10R or 10% of your trading account. And if you do that for a longer period of time and you test it throughout certain market environments, only then you can really truly gather some data on that system and see if it's actually profitable.
I see you nodding a lot, so I think you agree on that.
Well, I can only speak to my own experience. If I could offer some piece of advice, and I know this isn't applicable for everyone, it is to spend some time, that time can be weeks, it can be months, whatever, looking at different trading styles. This is if you're a complete beginner. Try and find one that you feel it clicks with you, it resonates with you. For me, that was price action trading. And then you need to funnel your time, as Yip says, you need to funnel your time and effort into mastering that one, because there is no point in trading, there is 0 point being a jack of all trades, master of none, because you won't make money. You need to focus on one trading style and become extremely proficient at that trading style. There's no point being kind of good at 10 different styles, right? That's not the way you make money. You need to be extremely good at one trading style. And then once you get very good at that one, you can add in, like I've added in very basic, order flow and like very basic auction market theory, stuff like that.
I do it with the Wicks from Crypt Nuevo. You know the guy as well,
Yeah.
It just makes so much sense once he explained that one time in a video I saw it, I think. And you will find out during that journey certain stuff that just makes sense as well. And you can just test it out also for a long period of time, like order flow, Wicks or whatever. But yeah, I feel like we have similar strategies. So I and I'm always trying to say this to you guys as well, try to keep it as simple as possible, and as long as you stick with price action and liquidity, and don't just necessarily understand them, but truly like master them. I feel like that is technical analysis wise 90% of all that you need to know.
But that's I flip flop, and not because I wanna ruin my life or blow up my savings. Where I think,
which makes sense because you lack confidence because you don't have the data yet backing up that your system that you're executing is profitable yet.
Yeah,
To get to
it
that
makes so
point,
much
it takes-
sense,
yeah,
but
it takes a long
somehow
time.
that's why I had this question: what who are the ones who get to the other side and make it work, and who are the other suckers? Keep putting in their pocket money. Did you put this into sort of vision or mission of Chroma?
Well, I mean, my mission, and I kind of touched on it earlier, was always to create the hub that I wished I had access to when I started trading. And that might seem like a bit of a cliched answer because I'm sure everyone who creates a community says that. But genuinely, when I started, I really felt like I was alone on the journey. I felt like I had no real support, no real access to people who could maybe give me a guiding hand. As I said, you don't necessarily need that, but it certainly helps, especially in the beginning. I think that, when I kind of launched the thing, I mean, it's really grown since the initial. I mean, initially it was, we just had like 30 members, and it was just really meant to be like a kind of a small hub based around me and my friends, and now we have like 500 or 600 members, and it's growing, month on month, and I have a team of guys working for me, and we have all these administrative problems to sort out, and
That chapter, okay.
I'm really I'm running a business here, and I mean, like, it's don't get me wrong, those are great problems to have, and it's fantastic to see it having grown so much, but I guess like the core mission has and always will be, we want to educate traders. I want to provide traders with the resources that maybe I wish that I had when I first started.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And like at the end of the day, like, don't get me wrong, we're all here to make money, right? And I don't want to come across as this like super saccharine, super kind, sweetheart guy. Like, oh, I just want everyone to succeed.
You don't.
Right.
You don't.
No, you're. You know what I mean? Like, I understand. Like, everyone's here to make money. I get that. But it's like if you can help people along the way, right? Because like I do think that like there is an element that there's an element of gratification there that goes beyond the financial for me. It's not even so much that like people say, oh, it helps me sleep at night. People are like, oh, I give money to charity, it helps me sleep at night. I don't need that. Right? I sleep fine already. But it's just like there's an element of giving back to the community that I love that makes me feel good. And it's like if you can make money, if you can achieve your goals, why not pull other people along for the ride? Why not bring other people into it?
Sure.
Right? I think there's an element of people talk about success, but success means a lot of different things. And for me, success not only means personal success, but also success for people who are in my sphere, who work around me, who work closely with me. I love to see people who I've known for years, who I've worked closely with, succeed as well, because that feels, in many instances, as much of a success for me as it feels, as any other of my personal successes would feel. So there's definitely that as well. I think when you build a community, when you build a close-knit community and you have all these guys working closely with you, it really is the rising tide lifts all boats, if you know that saying.
Yeah.
Like when one person is up, it really brings everyone up. And I love that.
Great.
That's
Beautiful.
That's a great title already for this podcast. When I look at you in your live streams, I almost think that you could be a DJ as well. Sometimes I just go there and I just hang out a little bit just for the.
In a former life, I was in college. For a few years. Yeah, that was like way early on in my life. That was the path that I wanted to go with my life, was into music. So that stays a little bit with me now. In with the music that I play on stream. But that's also influenced by, you guys won't know this guy, but there's a very famous chess streamer, and that's a whole nother conversation, but I love chess. to like a fanatical level. I spend a lot of time watching it and even more time playing it. But there's a chess streamer, a guy called Eric Hansen, who I watched fanatically back in the day. And he always used to have these live streams where he played bullet chess, which is a very high tempo chess. It's like you only have a minute to make all your moves with like techno in the background. And it was just, it really changed the game. I remember like when I first got into streaming, I was like, how do I make a streaming product? Like crypto is exciting inherently, but it's not, if you're looking at the weekly BTC chart, it's not the most enthralling content, you know what I mean? So I was like, how do I make this exciting? And I thought like bringing in, like I play a lot of like tech house, techno music. I thought that kind of gives a tempo to it, and like I'm bopping to it as well, you know, like I love that. Like I listen to music that I listen to, you know, I'm not putting music on the stream that I don't like just for the sake of it. I'm listening to music that gives me energy.
Yeah, sure.
And like hopefully that energy kind of carries through into the chat, carries through into the product I'm putting out there. And then like sometimes, you know, you're in a trade, you're in an M1 trade, you're in a scalp. And it's like just the energy levels are crazy high, like because you know your heart is pumping, you're watching your P&L go up and down. It doesn't matter if you win or lose at that point because you've already won when it comes to the content you're putting out.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
It could also provoke some FOMO as well, you know, like the adrenaline is pumping high. I need to be in the trade. That's I need to control myself as well in a way.
Yeah,
there are two sides of the story.
Bart and Ilko already have trouble controlling themselves without the music. So
yeah,
absolutely. There are the mitigating circumstances. Absolutely, yeah.
So I would say that thankfully, FOMO is something I don't really feel anymore, and that might only be a thing that's happened in the last like year or so, and I think that just comes with time. I remember when I first started trading, I really felt like I needed to participate in every move. And I used to get such a horrible feeling when I saw guys on Twitter, like, you know, like Doge would be up like 3x and be like, oh, I made 500K. Or remember when that DWF coin, what was it called? Like TRB or something like that? Remember when that went up to like...
everyone was positioned for some reason.
Well,
we are the only losers out there.
I was in the same boat.
And like guys caught the short as well on the way down. I remember thinking, because I had been watching that coin for weeks, and then all of a sudden people made like 500K on it, and I was like, you know, there are times like that where you feel like, oh, why wasn't I involved? Why? But like, I think once you've been in crypto long enough, you realize that like there are really opportunities like that every week, right? And like people seem to think that like, you know, I was like talking to one guy in my server recently. Well, it was, let's say back in January. He said, man, I'm so tilted that I missed out on Trump. You know, I'm so tilted. I think that's like, I had a chance. I saw it at $3. Then it went to 100, and you know, I feel like that was my chance to like, you know, retire my bloodline. Like that was the play. I missed it. And I was like, brother, like there's going to be plays like that every week. I mean, crime season has just started, you know? And I was like, and that thing is probably going to retrace anyway. And he was like, no, man, I think this is going to be like the next top 3 coin, blah, blah. I mean, look, you know how that story ended. And I was just trying to impress on this guy that, you know, don't feel bad because you missed this move or because you missed this coin, because there's going to be another Trump. There's going to be another
infinite
100x,
opportunities.
You know? And the thing is, like, if you miss a move, right, the worst thing you can do is try and like jump in late and be that guy, because then you're just going to be exit liquidity for someone who caught the move earlier. The best thing you can do is just stand back, let things play out, and journal the shit out of that. Try and figure out, why didn't you pull the trigger at the time? What were you feeling? What was the cause of you not jumping in at that time? Was it a case of it being a good decision but a bad result? Because sometimes people conflate the result of an action with whether or not it was a good decision or not. But that's not always the correct thing to do.
Yeah,
right?
this is also what I have very much. Yeah.
So like if like Yip mentioned data before, if you have data to suggest that like, let's say 60% of the time something plays out during a certain time period, and you take that trade and then it doesn't play out, do you go, oh, fuck, I was wrong. That was the wrong decision. No, because it just so happened that you fell into the 40. It's probabilities.
It's a game of probability.
You just fell into the 40%. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think
such a relaxing feeling.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly that. Yeah, no, for me
To
now
me,
it's
such a
annoying
relaxing
and
feeling to lose
disappointing.
these days.
Yeah, you need to go to that. Yeah,
you got to fall back on the data. You know what I mean? And I think that data gives you confidence going forward But it also means that when you look back on moves that you missed out, you don't feel any FOMO. You don't feel like I should have jumped in here, because you know you've been in crypto long enough to know that there's going to be another move like that in a week.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
It sounds so easy.
Yeah, but it truly
And
is
yet,
kind of easy.
it's so difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the journaling part from our side. Let's be honest. Look in the mirror, and you know where it's going wrong at this moment. So that's up to us. When you look at your Twitter profile, there's still a lot that is unclear, at least to us. And please bear a little bit with us, because we dove into this. We went Sherlock Holmes mode.
Home style.
So we want to decipher a little bit if we were really crazy or we were on the right path.
The mind you in this is we were up in the air, so it was 10 kilometers high, perhaps. Bear with us.
Yeah, so for the viewers, if you go to Follis' Twitter profile, there is his name, Follis. It starts with the name Follis already, which is not your real name. I won't ask you to reveal your real name. Don't worry about that. But I need to look at my notes here. But Follis actually is a Roman coin.
Correct.
It is introduced by a Roman Emperor Diocles, if I pronounce his name well, and that he sort of revamped the Roman financial system with this coin after a financial shakedown, turmoil. And this coin was meant to bring back stability and bring down inflation. And at that moment in time, I thought, okay, the Follis is basically the Bitcoin of the Roman Empire. And I thought, I don't know, am I losing it or not?
Not at all. You're on the right track completely. So, you know, my girlfriend will confirm this, but I really love wordplay, and this is where all your viewers are going to drop significantly. So I apologize. We'll cut this out in the edit. But I love wordplay. I spend a lot of time reading like dictionaries and thesauruses. That's not a joke. I don't know. I really like the English language for some very strange reason. And when I was launching my social media profile, I spent weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks trying to find a name that I liked. Like really spent a long time. And eventually I decided I wanted it to be something related to a coin, because I thought that was such a cool idea. Like, you know, like an ancient coin, and then like Bitcoin is like that. So it was like a kind of a tie-in. Anyway, I will cut a long story short. Eventually I settled on the Follis, because it was an ancient Roman coin, but it was basically worthless. It was like a penny. Yeah. So I thought, worthless. That's really good. That's perfect. It's the same root as the English word foolish. So Follis, foolish.
That's another one I wrote down.
Yeah. So it's a doublet, I think is the word for it, but it basically means it's the same original root. So I thought, okay, foolish, worthless, perfect. And then the last one, it's related to the word folio, which basically means like it came from the Latin money purse.
Yeah.
So
Portfolio.
Portfolio. It literally comes from folio, folis.
Yeah.
It literally comes from the word for money purse, which again comes from the coin itself. So I thought it basically means I am, and it means bag. So I'm basically a worthless, foolish bag holder. I thought, that's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. So yeah, I went with that.
You know what's funny? It's the kind of name that you would ask ChatGPT these days to figure out a proper good name for you, and this is the kind of name that you would come up with. But you just did it all by yourself, which is crazy.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah, a worthless, foolish bag holder. So the Japanese katakana in my name just means Follis. Yeah. It's just literally the Japanese for Follis. But I remember...
But it's up there. I mean,
yeah.
why?
So I can't remember how it started, but I probably just put it into Google Translate, and I saw the 4 katakana, and I was like, wow, that's a really good visual symbol. And at the time, I think maybe some people have done it now. I'm not sure, maybe they're copying me or not. That's probably a little bit of an egotistical thing to say. But at the time, I didn't see anyone on Twitter with these katakana as their name.
Right.
I thought it was quite unique. Now, probably doesn't help for the search algorithm, but I thought it was so visually striking that I actually incorporated that into my branding straight away. And over time, it's become effectively my logo, if there is one. And I think, just from a visual perspective, it's very strong. People are like, oh, you must love anime. You must have been to Japan many times. I'm like, never been to Japan. Don't really watch anime that much. I just like the way they look. That's basically it. There's not much more to it.
The Roman statue on your your profile is from that Roman emperor that got the.
It's not. That was something custom. That was, I can't remember how that came. That was me in Photoshop messing around with a load of different assets. So I that's something that came hand in hand with me creating a social media brand, was learning graphic design, because I don't have any background in graphic design, but a lot of the Chroma branding, a lot of the Follis branding, not all of it, but a lot of it is my own creation, or at least my own edit of stuff that we got designed already. So, and I think like people know my brand for having, you know, kind of like, I don't know, hopefully a nice aesthetic, but that is something that wasn't accidental. I mean, that was something that came through a lot of trial and error and a lot of YouTube tutorials and just trying to figure out how to use you know, stuff like Figma, stuff like Photoshop, and thankfully, like, it's kind of gotten to a point now where I'm relatively proficient in those apps and kind of can put forward these nice graphics and like have a relatively nice design aesthetic, in my opinion, or something that I'm happy with. So that's kind of where it came from. That's where the profile picture came from. That's where my banner came from. That's where all the branding on my Twitch, all the branding on my YouTube. You know, there's a lot of stuff there. People assume that we have, you know, a graphic designer for everything we do. And, you know, actually a lot of it is just me, you know, like even in the Discord, we have, you know, like brand icons and custom emojis. And people are like, hey, like, those are great. Like, what Fiverr artist did you get to do these? I'm like, that was me, man, you know?
And Chroma fits in because that's Chroma is the purity of a color, or it's freedom from white or gray. I know we went deep, but that's I think where it fits in, right? You know, you know, when you look at your streams, that's quite
The bright
purple
colors.
and bright
Sure.
colors.
etc.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I always wanted to have like a kind of a through line when it came to branding, like just with certain colors. And we actually worked with, there's a very, very talented graphic designer around CT. Do you know Alpha Illustrated?
Yeah, he did our branding.
Yeah,
as well for
exactly.
Tribe.
Yeah.
he's amazing.
Really, really smart guy. I've
Yeah.
met him IRL. Really, really nice guy. But we worked with him way early on, like before we even launched Chroma, just to get, and maybe you guys can't see it, but that is the Chroma rectangle.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know.
Yeah.
But that was something that he designed really early on, and that informed a lot of our brand going forward.
Right.
But yeah, I think that was it was kind of, originally we had a mishmash of lots of different things, and he was like, why not go with just blue, orange, and purple? I was like, yeah, I really like that. So that's how that came about.
But that's of course also the moment when you change your skill set, if you will, from also, you know, figuring out charts to hiring people or working with people, managing situations, you know, thinking about your portfolio, having to attend a podcast, or, you know, did that change your life for the better?
Absolutely. I think this whole crypto thing has just been crazy in terms of how much it is, like how much it has changed my life, how much it has enriched my life, like how much it has added. I look back now on, and don't get me wrong, like, you know, law is a fantastic profession, and some of those people are extremely talented, extremely smart, and they're doing fantastic work. But I look back on that life now, and I was unhappy, and I probably didn't even realize it at the time because I was so caught up in the race, you know. But you know, I think of myself as being very fortunate that I kind of stumbled into this vocation, because it was never something I never set out to do it. You know, I just got into trading almost accidentally through a friend, and kind of figured out that I was not necessarily that I had an aptitude in it, but that I was too stubborn to admit that I didn't, or too stubborn to kind of give up. And I kind of fell into things. And, you know, as I said earlier on in the conversation, Chroma just started as a little trading hub for me and my friends, and now it has grown into something that's 10 times bigger than I could have ever imagined. And like my brand as well, if you had told me, I mean, I remember when I launched my brand, I was like, oh, I hope I get to 1,000 followers. Like, I remember that was really my goal. I was like, 1,000 followers, that's crazy. And now here I am on 110,000 or something like that. And that's just on Twitter. There's obviously more on other social media sites. So this thing has really grown legs, and thankfully I'm in a position now where I can make a living from it. but that's just so, I don't know. I'm very grateful. I think of myself as being very fortunate. There's no point where I look back and think, oh, I wish I was doing something else, or I wish I was doing law, because I just don't miss that anymore. And I think I'm very lucky. I'm very lucky to be in the position I am in, and I don't take anything for granted.
And you just said that things became so much bigger than you can manage almost. And we asked someone close in your circle a couple of questions in preparation for this interview. We asked, in this case, it's a her. We're just sitting in the room. We won't put the cameras on her. It's Marquise indeed. And we asked, what is a big defining moment, let's say for Follis or for Chroma in the last couple of months? And actually, she said, it's her joining, because there's so much stuff that she takes off your plate now, so you can focus on, I don't know, the color of the studio or the back in the charts. And I actually loved that, the very honest reply. Do you feel the same? Obviously, you cannot say no now.
100%, yeah. No, so yeah, it's no secret, but she joined my team full time 2 months ago, I think, and that has been fantastic, because it's. I was actually at the point where I was having to put things on my work list just way down in terms of priority, and I wasn't able to get to things, and I wasn't able to answer DMs, and people were getting frustrated because I wasn't communicating enough. But I was literally working like 16 hours a day, and like I think there was almost too much work on my plate. And I was talking about, at the time, I was talking about hiring basically an assistant, someone to help me. And at the time, she wasn't really vibing with her job at the time. I was like, why don't you join me? You know, and she has a background in marketing, so thankfully she was able to pick up a lot of marketing materials with Chroma as well. So she's effectively now like marketing manager / assistant / a few different hats. But she has managed to take a lot off my plate in terms of workload, which is amazing.
Just a big milestone, I can imagine.
It really is, yeah. And I think, well, I mean, I won't put words in her mouth, but I think she enjoys working with Chroma a little bit more than her previous job too. So yeah, happy days.
That's the question they ask to startups. What is your big, hairy, audacious goal?
Okay, well, I've never heard that term, but that's amazing. I love that terminology. I think having an end goal in crypto can be a little bit counterintuitive sometimes. And you always hear these people, and they're like, once I hit 10 million, I'm going to retire forever. It's never as clean as that. It never really works. Like, do you think people who have the drive and ambition to get to that number, hit that number, and then go,
quit?
That's me done, boys. See you later. Like, that's not the way it works, right? Because if you have the drive to get to that goal, then you're just going to move the goal sticks once you get there and go for another goal. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that like that's who I am, but I also think that people who come into crypto with a target in sight or with an end goal in sight, like, not only does it put like a kind of a weird amount of pressure on you, because like returns are asymmetric as well. Like some years you will make next to nothing, right? Some months you will make next to nothing. Some months you will double your net worth, because that's just what the market's giving you. That's the way you engage with the market, right? I think people who say like, I want to make 5% every month, that's consistency to me. I think that's putting a weird kind of amount of pressure on you, because that's not the way that returns work in crypto. In much the same way, I don't think that goals work like that, where you should be targeting something static in the future and saying, I want to get to this amount of members from my community. I want to get to this amount of money in my bank account. I want to hit, this kind of following. Like those targets are fine, but I mean, eventually you hit those targets, and what do? Do you stop? Do you pack it in, or do you just shift the goalpost? So, I mean, my targets are like, I have personal goals, I have personal ambitions, but they're shifting all the time. Like I said at the start, when I launched my Follis Twitter account, I wanted to get to 1,000 followers. Like, that was such a huge goal for me. And that's, I swear to God, I remember exactly when it was. It was Christmas 2021. So yeah, I basically started posting on the Follis account in December 2021, or maybe like January 2022. And like, I remember thinking like, once I get to 1,000, that's it, man. I'm, sit on my laurels. I'll be happy then. But like, obviously I blew past that, and now I'm thinking, maybe I get to 1 million before this whole crypto game grinds to a halt. Who knows? But I mean, that's the way goals work. That's the way ambition works, is you're just always aiming higher. And I mean, I'm not even thinking about the end yet, right? Like, something I always say to my partners, to the people who sponsor my stuff, is like, I'm not one of these guys who's like, oh yeah, I'm in it for one more cycle and then I'm out, right? I feel like I'm just starting, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I only started trading in 2021. I only started making money in 2022. It's not a long amount of time.
That's
Right? That's not a
time.
career. Like, I mean, this is what I plan on doing for the next, however long I'm working. And maybe that's 10 years, maybe it's 15 years, maybe it's 5 years, who knows? But I don't have an end goal in sight necessarily. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing. And that's another thing, is like, I love what I'm doing, right? I mean, I love this. I genuinely do. And there's no, for me, like, when I say, like, and you're probably the exact same, when I say that I'm working 14 hours a day or 12 hours a day, people are like, oh, wow, that's so tough. Like, when I say I'm working 7 days a week, people are like, Saturdays and Sundays. And I'm like, and bank holidays, motherfucker, you know what I mean? But it's like, none of it feels like work in the same way that my old job used to feel like work, because it's my own stuff. They're my own projects, right? It's my own brand. It's pushing my own goals, my own ambitions further. So like, I love every moment of it. Now, sure, there's some times where I'm deep in admin work at 3 a.m. and I'm like, I just want to go to bed, right? I kind of have to get something done. Yeah. I mean, that's maybe not the most glamorous part of it, but most of it I love, and I love how it's all furthering the same kind of common goal. It's all furthering, what I want to do and what I want to achieve. So, I mean, that's a very roundabout way of answering your question, but to go back to the core question, which is, do I have any goals or ambitions or targets in mind? Not really. That's a bit of an abstraction for me right now, but as I said, it really does feel like I'm closer to the start of things than to the end of things. So the end goal isn't really something I'm quite focused on right now.
You're here to stay.
For the moment, yeah. I mean, crypto, thankfully, I mean, in 2022, 2023, it was kind of like, I was like, are we going to get regulated out of existence? But
right, yeah.
It does seem now that crypto is here to stay a little bit more. It's all right. We'll just pivot to Forex if crypto stops being a
That's a
thing.
whole other chapter.
Yeah.
How does this sound for you, Jip, about
It
what
sounds
you're building?
very, very familiar. I also started out like, I wanted to live on my own. I wanted to leave my parents' house, and I was like, okay, I'm making decent money now, but to pay rent, it would be nice to have like a extra source of income. And some people on Twitter were telling me like, create a community, I'll pay you for it on a monthly basis. I was like, quite nice. So I didn't really have a goal in mind as well when I started out, and then it just all of a sudden becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, and at some point the community too, it's a hub. It's basically like a online family almost. I feel like for some people, it truly is the only place where they have friends sometimes, or people that they can speak to, especially crypto and trading related, because there's not a lot of people in my circle as well that do trading or investing in general. So it's just nice to have a place like that. And I don't know, I just really also love and enjoy every single moment of this entire journey. Also because I've seen the other side when I was, in my case, and still playing professional football, which I wasn't miserable, but I think if I would have continued doing that for another year, I probably would have become very miserable. So I'm also just very, very grateful and happy at the moment how things are going. So I feel like in that sense, we are really in the same boat, and I can recognize myself almost in every word that Follis is saying. That's beautiful, I think.
All right, so it's time for the quick question round. Like the format explains already, a couple of questions in the grande finale. And the last one is a yes or no. Are you ready for it?
Yes.
Good stuff.
Let's go. First one. Token 2049 or King's Day Rotterdam?
Token 2049. King's Day is fun, but
Horrible.
too much for me.
Too much.
All right. Okay.
All right.
What is something you know now that you wish you had learned 5 years earlier?
Don't risk a lot at the start. Risk just enough, but do not be risking anything meaningful. That's something that's a huge mistake that I made. Everyone needs to pay tuition, but that tuition doesn't need to be a lot.
Got it.
All right. What Irish song should we all go to listen now?
Irish song.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great one. Anything by the Dubliners.
The Dubliners.
The Dubliners, yeah. If you really want to really be like that obnoxious Irish person, just blast the Dubliners, max volume in your car when you're on holidays in any foreign destination. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Ethereum or Fartcoin?
Oh, easy. Fartcoin. Yeah. Anything is better than Ethereum at this point. Yeah. Hot air rises, right?
Hot air rises. That's tough.
All right.
And the yes or no one?
The yes or no one is the idea that anyone can become a profitable trader a comfortable myth?
No. Am I allowed to expand on that just a little bit?
Just a little bit.
I think that it's something I spoke about earlier.
Yeah.
The myth is that you need some kind of special intellect or some kind of special talent to make it. I think that work ethic is far more important. And I think that within reason, I'm not going to say everyone can make it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the vast majority of people can make it. The key limiting factor for most is work ethic.